Okay, what we're going to learn today is how to import points into Civil3D, apply and define a label style, and also adjust the marker. So to start off with, we're going to import our points from our CSV file. We're going to select the format, which is point, northing, easting, elevation, and code. Columns are limited. Check that the columns have been assigned correctly, which they have. We're going to add them to a group. Let's make a new group. We're going to call this one welds because they're welds. Don't want to do any adjustments. And we're going to go OK. Now at first, we won't look as though anything's come in. Until we zoom extents. Then we'll see where all our points are. You'll see these points have come in with a label style, which is the standard label style, which has point number, elevation, and code. What we want to do is label these differently and only show the code. So what we want to do is select our point, any point, it doesn't matter. Go to style. You'll see in this particular template, we've got a whole heap of them that are predefined, but let's start from scratch. So we're going to go create new style. The new point style is going to be called a weld. The marker doesn't matter too much for the purpose of this exercise, but let's say we wanted our marker to be a square with a cross. We can just select this, or if we want a circle and a square and a cross, there's all number of combinations that we can choose. Or we can choose like a predefined block, but for now, let's leave it at this. This here, you will be able to customize later depending on the plot scale that you're going to use at the end. Typically, I find 1.5 is a good size for your marker. 3D geometry uses the point level. Okay, and display now is important. So we want to choose the layer that the marker for our point is going to show on. We want to put it on in this case, you can have it however you want. We're going to go for marker, weld. That means that we'll be able to turn the marker off in our viewport later if we want to. Similarly with the label, we're going to put it onto Anno Weld. Once again, this means that we can toggle the label and the marker by using the layers later on when we need to highlight different aspects of our drawing. So we'll go ahead and hit OK for that. And we've now created a new point style. So we need to apply that point style to all of our points over here by choosing weld. It will take a little bit of time to think about it, but then you see when you zoom in, you'll see the marker is now that square with a cross that we defined, where it was previously just a cross. And to highlight what we do with regard to the layers, if we come down to the marker weld layer, we can turn that off. You'll see that the marker turns off, but the label is still present. Similarly, if we turn the anode weld off, the label will turn off, but the marker won't. The next thing that we want to do is define our label style. As you'll see, there's some already predefined in this particular template, but let's make a new one. Let's call it weld label, because we're labeling, in this instance, we're labeling welds. And our general tab specify the layer that this label is going to go onto, which is once again anode weld. Layer is where we define what we're actually going to show on our label. In this case, you'll see we've got point number here. We also have point level, and we also have description. And their properties are defined in this box here. In this instance, we don't want the point number to show. We also don't want the level to show. All we want to show is a description. Because we've removed that's what that warning was, because we've removed the elevation, this label is now doesn't know where to be anchored. So we need to go through and define where it's going to be anchored. So the anchor point on the label refers to the portion of text that we're talking to. We're going to go for middle center. Let's go middle center for now. Middle center. You'll see what that does is brings the text right over the top of our weld or of our marker. We can then use the offset to move it. So it's a good idea just to move it enough that it's not overpulling the marker, unless of course you're doing an elevation where you do want it to sit on top of the marker. So for now this is fine. To define what the label is going to say, we select the contents, we press the ellipsis to bring up this, and this is how we're defining what's going to say. Full description is essentially the code, which is what we want. But we also want to change the format. We are going to use Arial today to get a crisp text. Your other options is your rotation angle. See that spins it to 45 degrees. But for the purpose of this exercise, we're just going to leave it sitting here, just above our marker, reading horizontally on our plan. The text size you may need to alter when you determine the scale of your drawing, but generally speaking 2.5 is a good size. Once we've done this, we also want to check our dragged state is going to match our layout. So essentially, when you want to edit your label or move it on your plan, you're going to have a group edit, and as soon as you select your group edit, the style of the text is going to change to dragged state. What it does is it creates an arrow and a leader from the marker to the text. The most crucial thing to understand is you want to have the same height for your text height between layout and drag state, because otherwise you'll drag it and then it will blow up much bigger. Usually these things are going to be acceptable as a default, but you can play around with them and see what looks good on your drawing. Okay, that looks okay for now. gone through, we've set our layer, we've deleted the other elements, we find what we want it to say and what we want it to look like and where we want it to be placed. Now we're going to hit OK, and we're going to hit OK again. You'll see that it applied it to that one point that we had selected. But if we select them all, apply our label style, it will think for a little while, but then once it's done, you'll see we now have all these labels. So in this instance, not very good here, which is why you're going to need to drag it, but it is how you want it on this portion. When you drag it, when you need to drag it, you can select your point with your label. This grip edit is how you're going to move it. And you'll see here what happens and why you want it to have the same text size as the normal layout. Okay, so you will want to probably play around with that. You can still modify some of these items in your properties tab, but typically you're not going to want to do that. But you can see I just showed you an example there. So if you had 4 or 5 that you wanted to rotate rather than drag them, you could. So there you go. They're the basic tools for labeling your Cogo points. You should be able to explore now and find out everything you need to make a good looking plan. All right, good luck with it all.